Reading is one of my favorite things to do. Honestly, it's probably what I spend the most time doing other than listening to music. Reading as both a skill and hobby were firmly pressed into my young mind, and to be fair, I took to it like a fish to water, so it was an easy sell. As a shy, reserved kid, it was comforting to have a book nearby to escape into. In fact, it was more common to see me nose deep in a book than anything else. So imagine my shock when I discovered all those years ago that reading and anime, one of my other favorite things, had been meshed together in a neat little package. While access was scant back in the day, online message boards provided a gateway to the blended world of interactive reading, visual novels. Quite frankly, it was far too much for the age I was when I discovered visual novels, but like most things, I just didn't care at the time. I can vividly remember booting up Higurashi for the first time as a child, no real clue what it was, just that it looked cool. I also remember how excitement turned to terrified dread as the story took a dramatic turn towards horror. The atmosphere chilling and so seemingly real back in that dim-lit room, far too late at night. But even with that terrifying turn of events, I soldiered on, Higurashi staying in the back of my mind as I slowly made it through the game over the weeks to come. While there are many visual novels like Higurashi that move linearly through their story, there are whole collections that put the unique quality of interactivity to use. It puts not just the characters portrayed, but you, the reader, in the action as well. Even if you are no more than a bystander witnessing the action, you feel every story beat with visceral clarity. Fate Stay Night and the collection of stories in its universe, affectionately called the Nasuverse after its creator, is a perfect case study. Depending on the choices that the player makes through the story, the ending will change. Fans to this very day furiously debate on which ending is the best, and there are no less than 4 routes that can be achieved. While some choices have immediate ramifications, others lurk in the background and develop later as the story progresses. A seemingly unimportant dialogue choice now can cause a butterfly effect, spiraling into a particularly unfortunate ending, or perhaps an unforeseen good one. In a twist on that style, the original Tsukihime, written within the same setting, has an added element of complexity to its roots. Endings are divided up into the near side and far side routes. The near side gives a broader lore view, and while wildly different in conclusion, near side endings are still recognizable in each other's similarities and the ultimate direction. Small choices leading the protagonist to different endings that in hindsight are clearer than they are obscured. The far side routes, however, are where things get really messy. With some characters not even appearing, it takes a much more focused view of certain events within the game and how they can twist and shape with the gentlest nudge. These endings are unrecognizable when compared to the near side without that context. And understandably, the game pushes the near side as the more obvious path to take. But for the curious, and the lucky, a single step will propel you into the unseen world of the setting, hidden away from more casual glances. The variety offered is an impressive display of diverging storylines that still contribute to the whole work. Linear and choice-driven stories are all well and good, but for an interactive story experience, some may be left wanting more than the occasional choices, seeking to get stuck into the action a little bit more, immersing themselves into the world and stepping into the character's shoes. The medium still delivers on this front with a sliding scale of complexity and player demand. For example, Valhalla is one of my favorite visual novels for this reason. You follow the story of Jill, a bartender in the seedy Glitch City, a city that hits all the hallmarks of a dazzlingly depressive cyberpunk setting. And as a bartender, you interact with the colorful, bizarre clients who blow in for a drink or quick shelter from the mean streets, and of course, you sling drinks like any proper bartender. The gameplay loop of crafting these beverages is straightforward on the surface, but if you're careful, paying attention to your clients, you'll pick up on their little quirks. What they like and dislike, what tastes they prefer and which they hate. Having been on both sides of the bar in real life, I was delighted to cheer someone up with their favorite drink, and had a good chuckle at someone getting something they really shouldn't have asked for. It keeps the monotony of merely reading and making the occasional choice at bay in a relaxed way, but it also ties into the theme and daily life of the character in a way that is inobtrusive and easy to understand. It's all well and good, but what if you really wanted to put some effort into it? Get into the nuts and bolts and experience a game as much as a story being told? Well, why not pick up a game like Danganronpa? A murder mystery where you actively look for clues, put together leads, and then put those theories to the test in a crucible of interconnected game modes to determine who the culprits are. But what if we took it a step even further? Taking the genre to a slightly looser definition, we can include games that contain much more robust RPG elements, such as the Persona series. This series is a gaming giant that melds party-based JRPG combat with story presented through a socially driven choice system. It's not a tacked-on feature either. Player choice is a cornerstone of the series, with branching paths unlocking different rewards. Depending on player choice, new clues, abilities, and endings may present themselves. Taking it to the handheld dimension, mobile gacha games also contain many elements of the visual novel storytelling style, many times thanks to its ability to convey story through a less intensive manner than fully rendered cutscenes. While these games tend to feature linear stories with little, if any, player choice outside of dedicated gameplay sections, they still have enough of the visual novel kernel that I personally would count them among their desktop and console-based brethren. With all this variety in both the more purist approach and the broader, more experimental approach to visual novels, there is a menagerie of genre and idea that gets played out. We have already mentioned a few with the mystical urban fantasy of Fate and its sister series that deftly move the scale up or down depending on how grand of a story it wants to tell. Danganronpa is a giant of murder mystery with several entries. Mecha fans have gotten a fair bit of love as well, with everything from the mammoth that is Muv-Luv to Baldur's Sky. Horror aficionados have the classic Saya no Uta, the cultural icon of Doki Doki Literature Club, and a million other stories besides. If you've taken a shine to the cyberpunk setting, we've already touched on Valhalla, and other titles such as 2064 Read-Only Memories may scratch a similar itch. Military themes, high fantasy, and slice of life all get represented, from the grimmest, darkest settings to the brightest and most relaxed. Art style is also fairly varied. The core of the genre is decidedly anime, but there are games that take a more Western approach to presentation. There is genuinely something for everyone in visual novels if you take the time to look. There is a bit of an elephant in the visual novel room, however, and I would be foolish not to mention it briefly, especially if you're watching this video with no prior experience or knowledge of visual novels. A lot of visual novels will leave you swimming in a sea of digital adult content. It is not a hard rule, but it is worth giving a quick check before you buy and play a novel just to get flashbanged in public by some of the most degenerate scenes you have ever witnessed, especially if you are checking out an older visual novel. A quick look through the visual novel tag on Steam reveals an impressively degenerate amount of NSFW work, but the 90s and early 2000s are where the really wild stuff is found. If that sort of thing is up your alley, however, still check just in case that content is locked behind an additional patch that you need to download or an R18 version of the game. Just be safe about what websites you go to. It can be a virus-filled wasteland out there. To bring it all full circle, visual novels offer a cool look into what a creative blend of storytelling and video games can be given a little push. While we can be a fractious bunch, people who like visual novels can also be weirdly welcoming, especially the dedicated fans who hand translate their favorites into other languages, or keep games alive that would otherwise be long dead, trapped on hardware that's practically impossible to find in the modern day. There is more than a lifetime's worth of visual novels out there, so something is bound to catch your eye. Who knows? Your next favorite story may be lurking in a visual novel just waiting to be discovered. Till next time, peace.